I'm a pretty big Elton John fan. I wish I could play piano like him, but you don't get everything. I'd like to talk about one of the songs that he is popular for, one of the many. The words go like this. I guess there are times when we all need to share a little pain, and ironing out the rough spots is the hardest part where memories remain. And it's times like these when we all need to hear the radio, because from the lips of some old singer we can share the troubles that we already know. Turn them on. Turn them on. Turn on those sad songs. When all hope is gone, why don't you tune in and turn them on? This song, for those that don't know, is called Sad Songs Say So Much. What Elton John is getting at is this idea that when you are sad, when you're heartbroken, there are things that you can attach yourselves to help you get through life. And it speaks a reality about a lot of art. You know, art, whether it be songs, movies, books, paintings, they're all creations. And there are times in our lives when we can step into that creation, or we feel like that creation is stepping to us and coinciding with our very own lives. When something has happened to you, and you think, this is just like that movie I just watched. Or this is just like that book I just read. Or this really feels like that sad song. That heartbreak is my heartbreak. For me personally, I recognize the time when I recognized it most was my senior year of high school. I loved basketball, but I really wasn't good enough to play a lot for the team. So I spent a lot of time on the bench, watching, cheering, but the same song stuck in my head over and over again. Put me in, coach. I'm ready to play today. Over and over on repeat. I just feel like I'm living this song even though it's about baseball. I just want to get out on the court and play. In a book I recently read, there was a character named Quentin. He's a smart high school kid, but he was obsessed with a set of novels in the fantasy world they existed in called Fillory. Everything that happened in his life, he thought, oh, that's just like in book 2, when the giant rabbit goes and meets the Fillory kids. This is just that moment right now. And another thing happens, and he draws to the 4th book in the series. And he's always sitting there wishing that Fillory was real and that he was there. Luckily for him, he later finds out not only is magic real, but the fantasy world of Fillory is reality. There's a point to me saying all of this. Psalm 22, for those that weren't here on Maundy Thursday, is sung or read during the stripping of the altar. Maundy Thursday, as we celebrate the Lord's Last Supper, we transition into Good Friday and focusing on Christ's resurrection by hearing Psalm 22. And the reason we do that is because Jesus had his own Elton John moment. Psalm 22 is so touching upon Christ's heart that in the midst of his crucifixion, just before he breathes his last breath, he quotes it. My God, why have you forsaken me? He quotes it. Eloi, Eloi, sabachthani. These are words taken from Psalm 22. It's understandable that he feels like he's living out this psalm because the other verses go like this. All who see me mock at me. They make mouths at me. They shake their heads. They keep yelling at me. Commit your cause to the Lord. Let him deliver. Let him rescue the one whom he delivers. For dogs are all around me. A company of evildoers encircles me. My hands and feet have shriveled. Also translated, they pierce my hands and my feet. I can count all of my bones. They stare and gloat over me. They divide my clothes among themselves, and from my clothing they cast lots. It's pretty understandable to see why Jesus would feel like, man, this psalm must be talking about me. Why he would be inspired for his last words in Mark to be, my God, why have you forsaken me? Interestingly enough, if you go back and read the psalm, it doesn't look that sad. In fact, it's full of praise and promise. From you comes my praise in the great assembly. I will perform my vows. God, you will deliver us. We all shall praise you. This is the tail end. It's like a bipolar psalm because there's no transition. It just suddenly goes from pain and anguish to joy, promise, praise. It's like an Easter celebration after a lot of pain. From you, O God, comes my praise in the congregation. You can hear the Easter echo of, because of the risen Christ, because of him instilling on us an eternal life, dying on the cross and raising from the dead, because of that I come to church and I praise him. I sing songs for him. I pray for him. After that praise comes promise. The psalm continues, the poor will be taken care of. Will be taken care of. And as we read this, perhaps it invites us to look into how we might help those who can't help themselves. And the amazing part about the end of this psalm, the promise, is it points to the absolute rule which God's had. Not just the living will bow to God. Not just creation itself will bow to God, but even those who are in the dust will bow down to God. Even those from the past who have died will bow down to God, and then it switches. And their descendants shall bow down to God too. The descendants shall serve the Lord. Now this text, as someone who wishes to be a parent someday, really gets me wondering. What are we doing here and now to show Christ to kids so that they can know and serve the Lord too? How might God be calling us to work and help so that descendants can know and serve the Lord too? Usually when we hear descendants or ancestors, it's 100 years away. It's a long time ago. But even now, descendants don't have to be 100 years from now. They can be the next generation. So what can we do on behalf of God to ensure that people will see the Lord's work in the world and will be ones that claim that the Lord has acted? In another translation, the word used instead of descendants is posterity. Posterity means the same thing. So Jesus has his Elton John moment. He hears sad songs say through so much through Psalm 22. He's living it out. And with his last words are, my God, why have you forsaken me? If we look at the section of Psalm 22 that we read today, it begs the question, was something of this same confidence, the confidence in the promise of Psalm 22, was something in that same confidence in the mind of Jesus, even as he cried out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Even though it was obvious that the verses I read before were happening in the moment, as Jesus closed his eyes, as he breathed his last breath, as he said goodbye to the world, could Jesus have rested his eyes on the vision seen in Psalm 30 and 31? I'm going to read a different translation. Their descendants will serve him. Future generations will be told about the Lord and proclaim his deliverance to a people yet unborn, saying that he has done it. So in the midst of agony and pain, Christ being the incarnate Son of God, could it be that even though he closed his eyes in shame and despair, he closed them knowing the promise that these people and everyone who comes after them will know that he